Over the years, we've seen plenty of cheating and tomfoolery in F1. There have been some extreme cases like Renault's Crashgate and McLaren with their espionage acts in 2007, but there have also been some other smaller incidents like Ferrari in 2019 with their engine, or Racing Point's pink Mercedes in 2020. All of these examples helped the team immensely that did them until they were caught, and looking back at them, they were all definitely cheating. But in the moment, where do we draw the line? There could be cheating scandals happening now that we see and think nothing of, but in 10 years, we could be looking at how much of an advantage they really provided. Now, what specific thing am I talking about here? I'm talking about the fact that Red Bull has two F1 teams, four cars on a 20 car grid. Literally 20% of the grid is Red Bull. And it's just seen as normal now because it's been around for so long. But how fair really is it? Back in 2004, Red Bull bought out the Jaguar team to make what would now become Red Bull, and just a year later, they purchased the minority team to become Toro Rosso, their junior team, which is now known as RB. At the time, people were concerned over the integrity of having two teams in F1, and understandably so. The concept was nothing anyone had seen before, and no one really knew what was allowed. Could the teams work together to form a four-car team? Could they share parts and have the same car? All of these were big questions at the time. But looking to the modern day, we don't see a direct benefit for Red Bull, but indirectly, they're gaining a huge advantage. Although they're not allowed to directly share certain parts like aerodynamic pieces or chassis parts, they still function through the same engine manufacturers and use the same gearboxes, as well as a couple parts on the FIA non-listed parts list, including rear suspension and hydraulics. All the other teams have access to purchase these parts from other teams that are in agreement, so it's not like there's any ridiculous advantage in those regards. Of all those things that they can name are different between them, Red Bull decides to refer to RB as their sister team instead of their junior team, even though they still treat it like a junior team. The significant advantage in the junior team is that they can trial two more drivers to decide who gets promoted to the senior team without the risk of putting them in the Red Bull car right away, even though Red Bull has recently gone against that with Liam Lawson. I think part of what I think part of why this isn't talked about as much as it should be is just purely of how poorly that they've done with their decisions in it, but that's besides the point. Now, other top teams do trial their junior drivers at lower teams, such as Mercedes having George Russell at Williams, Ferrari putting Charles Leclerc at Sauber, and currently Ferrari having Ollie Behrman at Haas, but that isn't the same. In these scenarios where a lower team is taking on the driver, it benefits them as well. They don't see an immediate opportunity to win, but having a driver who is very capable and has a lot of potential can see them do wonders for a lower team. The big risk of these younger drivers is their lack of experience, but loads of potential. In a top team where consistently scoring points is necessary isn't the same for a lower team. Although consistent points would still be great, one-off stellar performances mean a lot to teams, as for backmarkers, a couple of points can make a huge difference in the final standings. This inherently brings them more prize money, as well as potentially more attention from sponsors, meaning they can progress more to making it to the top of Formula One when they don't think they're capable of it quite yet. This is much different from Red Bull and RB because RB has no initiative to win. Being under the same company and constantly feeding every ounce of talent or skill that they have to the Red Bull team, they don't have aspirations to win, but serve the purpose to feed Red Bull. This means that there's an entire team in Formula One not racing to win, but rather to make another team win. And to anyone saying that teams like Haas and Sauber aren't racing to win, they are. They're just currently racing to get into a position where they can win, so they have the same outright objective. But going back to how bad they've done with young drivers, let me truly put into perspective how much they've failed. From every F1 driver academy since 2000, Red Bull has had the most drivers promoted from their junior academy. Ferrari's had 4, Mercedes 5, Renault's had 10, McLaren's had 5, Williams has had 4, and then Red Bull has a whopping 17. This also excludes drivers Red Bull has promoted from other academies like Nick De Vries, who was counted under Mercedes. It definitely seems like they've had less over the years with how quickly they siphon these drivers in and out, but that is a massive advantage, even if we haven't seen it be stupidly overpowered quite yet. Who knows, that could easily change soon with Arvid Lindblad. But even if Lindblad is good, the hit rate on these juniors would still be the same as Charles Leclerc's pole to win ratio. But drivers aren't the only main advantage Red Bull has through RB. They also have double the data to go off in cars. With separate cost caps and revenue streams from sponsors, they can go two separate paths with development and see the benefits of both. I think we're starting to finally recognize that with RB being a more drivable car than Red Bull this year, and this could massively benefit both teams. Also, with the RB team recently moving their operations to Milton Keynes, where Red Bull is located, they now share a wind tunnel. Although it is illegal by FIA ruling to share information, we have no way to verify that Red Bull and RB are not sharing data. Also, Engineers swapping between these two teams are the only in F1 that don't have to go through gardening leave. If you're unfamiliar with what gardening leave is, it's a period of time where an engineer or technician for a team is not allowed to work for either team in order to protect which team they're leaving from their intellectual property and strategic information. Seems fair enough, but why does Red Bull get this exception? I mean, the rationale of them not having gardening leave because they work together wouldn't be allowed, so we can rule that out. And Red Bull would likely have to say that the reason is the fact that they're under the same ownership. But here's the issue with that. As I mentioned earlier, Red Bull refers to their RB team as a sister team, not as a junior team, in order to suggest against collaboration. But a sister team would still imply that they are a rival team in which they're competing against. So the gardening leave rules would still apply, right? Another area that would be deemed illegal by the two teams is if they work together on track. Think about that. How overpowered would it be to have four cars on track working together? We've seen instances where it seems like the two teams are working together on track, but there's not any real evidence, just speculation around incidents. In the 2024 Singapore Grand Prix, it was not announced to the world yet, but Daniel Ricciardo likely knew that it was his final race in F1, and he went out with the fastest lap before finishing last out of all finishers. While many people saw it as an act of leaving a mark on his F1 career, it crucially took a point away from Lando Norris, who was Max Verstappen's only title rival at the time. Now, I don't think this was necessarily cooperation between the two, but many fans speculate around the issue, and they do think it shows clear proof between the two teams working together. Finally, one of the biggest advantages of having two teams is the fact that they serve as two separate entities. With two teams and four cars, they're able to pull in so much money from sponsors, and that's the main reason Red Bull has some of the most outrageous PR we've seen in the sport. But that's not it. In sporting and technical regulations, the FIA votes are held to one per team. But in this case, because they're two separate teams, they can vote on whatever they want, and Red Bull basically has two votes. So any regulation that they want, they have a higher chance of getting it to be approved. With all the advantages that they really have, do you think it's fair that they have two teams, or have we just become numb to how good it is as time gone on?